not a racist. I am the least racist person you have ever interviewed. That I can tell you.
The president again defending himself against charges that he's racist. Not the first time he has had to do so. This time after remarks about Haiti and African countries, and again controversy distracting from his agenda in Congress. Welcome back to Dr. Jeff Engel, director of the Center for Presidential History at SMU. Let's talk first about what that whole meeting was about. That was about immigration and the Dreamers. And the White House said this didn't have anything to do with the color of anybody's skin, the fact that it was Haiti and African countries. It had to do with the fact the president wants skilled people to come to this country who will contribute, not be a drain on society.
Well, first of all, the people who are coming from those countries are actually the skilled people. They're actually the educated people who can get themselves out of the country and come for visas, for work, or for education. But the real problem that Donald Trump has is that when he says something like this, people believe it. He has essentially a track record, and it really goes to show that when we think back for the last year on all the comments that Donald Trump has made that are inflammatory either on race or on other issues, it really undermines his credibility and undermines his political capital, so that when he does make a gaffe, every president makes a gaffe, there's simply no leeway for him to fall back on.
Right, and certainly never an apology.
No, never an apology, no. That's not his style. I don't think he's ever apologized in his life.
Again, though, as you suggested, he has a very ambitious agenda, and particularly with immigration, which is very popular with his base. Build the wall, may or may not happen. Limit immigration, may or may not happen. Protect the Dreamers. He says he wants to protect the Dreamers.
You know, the problem is, here again, Donald Trump actually says different things depending on which Twitter you read, which tweet you read, which hour you read. The reason they were having the meeting at the White House was because he had suggested he was open to the kind of deal which he then decided he was against.
Right.
And I think the real essence here is that, remember, we keep talking about Donald Trump's base and saying that his base would never leave him, about the 37, 38%. These kinds of comments don't actually affect the base. The base will cheer him on no matter what. And they don't affect the people who already dislike the president. They affect the few people in the middle who might be willing to cut a deal in Congress, who might be willing to go to their constituents and say, I was able to put up my own political capital, but frankly, he's eroding their opportunity to work with him. It's essentially, if he thinks of himself as being the art of the deal, this is essentially the worst way to make a deal.
Let's talk about the physical. And it was remarkable, the White House physician, who's a rear admiral in the Navy, came out and held a news conference. All questions were fair game for the White House physician, who said that it was highly unusual, but at the president's request, a cognitive impairment test was given, because the president has been facing questions about his mental and cognitive abilities.
You know, from a historical perspective, this is crazy. And I mean that word exactly right, because the truth of the matter is, here we are a year into the presidency, and what are the questions that we are asking? We are asking whether Donald Trump is a racist and whether or not he is mentally competent. Those are not the questions that the White House wants us to be talking about. They want us to talk about the tax break.
Right.
They want us to talk about what's going on with North Korea, essentially their mastery of it. They want us to talk about big issues, not the president. And the truth of the matter is, the more the discussion is about Donald Trump as president, the worse it is for the Republican Party, the worse it is for his agenda, the worse it is for the midterms. The more it is about actual issues, with Donald Trump being essentially muted, the better it's going to be for Republicans at the polls.
So much more we could talk about in this eventful first year in office. Steve Bannon getting a grand jury subpoena, so many other things. Out of time, unfortunately. Jeff is the author of the new book. It is called When the World Seemed New, George H.W. Bush and the End of the Cold War. You can find a link on fox4news.com.